friends. Welcome back to One Stage at a Time. Today on the podcast, we are playing through Boss Dumb Drum, the boss of the fifth world of Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I, as always, am Andy Prim.
And I'm Aaron Neeson.
And joining us again, our good friend Jared. Welcome back, sir.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Jared.
Woo! The crowd is going crazy for you, Jared. Welcome back to the show. Jared, it's quarantine. We're recording remotely from our respective bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
We're glad that you could join us remotely despite the quarantine situation. What if any video games have you been playing during the quarantine?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I've been slowly working my way through Dark Souls 3.
Nice.
Co-op thing with a couple of friends of mine, so that's been fun.
Dark Souls 3 has co-op?
Yes.
Yeah, all those games have co-op.
I thought that you could invade other people's games. I didn't know that they had co-op.
You can summon people into your game. And there's a bunch of mechanics that support it. It's pretty cool, actually.
That is cool.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I also started playing this really weird indie game called Piku Niku.
Okay.
You're like a little guy with very long legs and you're just like exploring this strange world.
Do you have to steal Piku Niku baskets? Not
so far. I am currently playing hide and seek with a rock.
Okay. It seems like it would be pretty easy to beat a rock at hide and seek.
You'd be surprised.
Depends on how many other rocks are around.
Yeah, there's lots of rocks, actually.
Aaron, last time we spoke, I believe you were knee-deep in The Witcher 3. Is that still on your docket?
That still is the case, yes. Still working my way through Witcher 3. There's just a never-ending supply of side quests. Like, that's not really an exaggeration either.
You'd think at some point they would learn not to mess with Geralt of Rivia?
You would think. But Geralt of Rivia is he's a greedy son of a gun. So if a job comes his way, he's going to take it. Even if the last side quest I did just now was literally to make a monk break his vow of silence. And it was so silly and kind of annoying, but at the same time also fun, because that game's just fun. I had to like scare him into cussing. So I used my Witcher powers to make some pots and pans rattle around and stuff until he was like, "Get away from me, you bleeping." And it was Witcher, or Geralt didn't realize that he was making somebody break his vow of silence. The person who hired him told him that it was a curse on the monk. And so when I went back, I threatened the guy I was like, "You tricked me again, I'm going to kill you." It's just a fun game. But I also played through the demo of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Ooh.
Because they had a demo for it, and I'd always been curious about those games. Like, are these like, I get that they're like top-down sort of exploration games, but is there like an action element, or like how exciting is this game? Because I thought, hey, it could be cool to play as like a Pokemon running around fighting other Pokemon, and so I played through the demo, and I gotta say it was adorable.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going in a direction of I hated it, but
I tell you,
surprised me.
I tell you, I would never buy it, not for full price, but it was super duper cute. Like, it was the cutest thing I'd played in a long time. But no, I would never pay $60 for that. Like, no, maybe 10 for a full game of that sort of gameplay. But
all right, you heard it, Nintendo. Drop the price to $10 and you will make a sale.
You might make a sale. What about you, Andy? What have you been playing during this past week of quarantine?
Well, I'm still on Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, the second game in the Kingdom Hearts saga. I finished the main game, and now I'm playing the alternate mode where you play as Riku instead of Sora. which is like it's a fully different story. So you should play it. It's like it's not just like a different character. Like Richter mode in Symphony of the Night or something like that. It's like a totally different story. So if you really want to get all the lore for Kingdom Hearts, you must play both sides of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
And I know you are a lore fiend. You're going to go get that lore.
I'm jonesing for it.
Jared, have you played the Kingdom Hearts games?
I have not. My understanding is that the story is like super duper absurd. In the style of the best JRPG stories.
That's about the size of it. Yeah, that's a pretty good description. I mean, it is just a completely impenetrable JRPG story
with Disney characters.
But Andy likes it.
I enjoy it. Yeah, it's fun. You got to not take it too seriously. Just kind of turn your brain off and enjoy it.
I think. Yeah. Right. I mean, how else could you possibly enjoy it?
All right, fellas, let's move on to the subject of today's discussion, Boss Dumb Drum. But before we get there, we do need to take a quick diversion to the corrections department. Aaron, you remember when we played Oil Drum Alley, I think, the first stage of this world?
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Well, there's something we forgot to talk about in that stage. We forgot to mention that Rambi the Rhino is in that level.
Did we? Is he?
Yes, we did. And yes, he is.
Okay.
So towards the end of the stage, we forgot to mention it because he's well hidden. You know how at the end of the stage, there's a section where there's Manky Kongs throwing barrels at you?
Yes.
Well, just before that section, there's a pit that you should fall into. And in that pit, you'll find who else but Rambi the Rhino. And he makes the end of that stage quite a bit easier if you discover him.
Can you blast through Manky's barrels if you have Rambi?
Yes, you can. I believe so.
Nice.
So that's all I have for corrections department. But we just want to say a heartfelt apology to our boy Rambi the Rhino. Sorry we neglected you, friend.
Well, now I have to say something. Yeah, sorry, Rambi, my bad. But we forgot to mention last episode, seeing our boy back again, trying to stop the treacherous Kongs from ruining the workers' union. Manky Kong was in last episode.
It's true. He was
last level.
Our boy. The class trader Kong.
Yeah, we just mercilessly destroyed him once again as he valiantly tried to protect the workers and their rights. And I'm sorry, Manky. I'm sorry. We're playing the heel here.
Manky Kong is like Fidel Castro, and Donkey Kong is like Fulgencio Batista.
Yes.
Deep cut.
Is it?
Well, I know who Fidel Castro is. I'm not sure who the other guy was.
Batista was the dictator that Castro overthrew.
Oh, I thought he played Drax.
No, that's Dave Bautista.
Oh,
yeah.
My mistake.
No, that's the same guy.
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy. All right. Well,
is there anything else in the corrections department?
No, that is it. We have corrected everything that needs correction.
Absolutely floored.
Good job, everybody.
Thank you,
good job all around. Pats on the back. Well done.
And good job to you, Jared.
Well done, Jared.
I take full credit.
All right. Let us move on then to the recap of this stage. So we've just played through Boss Dumb Drum, the boss of World 5, Kremcroc Industries Incorporated. This is the third to last boss of this game. Aaron, do you remember the term for third to last?
Let's see. So we have penultimate. We have before this anti-penultimate.
That's correct.
Woohoo! Go me. I'm amazing.
You finally remembered.
Finally learned. After how many times do you think it was, Andy?
Several. All right. So this is the anti-penultimate boss of the game, Boss Dumb Drum. Let's start with opening remarks. Jared, give us some of your opening thoughts about Boss Dumb Drum before we really get into the details.
I guess up until this point, has there been another example of an animated inanimate object as a character in this game?
I don't believe so.
So, like, is there any explanation for this?
Have we decided what the mashers, mincers? What the mincers are?
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about the mincers. Yeah, because they seem to be some weird amalgamation of organic and mechanical.
Okay,
but there is no explanation for them either.
Right. Yeah. So your question, Jared, like, is there an explanation for why this steel barrel has just suddenly decided to become murderous and attack us?
Yeah, barrels are your friends in this game usually.
This is one section where the lore is rather opaque, I have to say. So yeah, a bit of an enigma, Boss Dumb Drum. Aaron, what are some of your opening thoughts here?
I appreciate this boss so far. It was a fun mix-up, fun change of pace from what we had experienced so far, especially after the previous boss, the one right before this one. So initial impressions, I liked it. I liked this boss.
Yeah, I would say it's an interesting boss. It's unique. Like you said, Jared, it's the first inanimate object that we've really gone up against here. It's not like anything that came before. They honestly put very little effort into this boss. It's a no effort boss, but it shouldn't be that good, but somehow it is. Somehow I like this boss anyway.
The confusion added it made it exciting. It made it exciting because, like, like I said, we just came across the previous boss before Boss Dumb Drum here was just another naughty, another version of very, very naughty. And right. So I appreciated, like, I didn't know what to do at first. There was this barrel, it was slamming down. I was waiting for the real boss to appear. So I was just surviving for a little while. And then I noticed that he was like slamming down more each time. And I was like, oh, this is the boss. It's just progressing. Okay. So, like, it also wasn't that hard because I beat it in one try. But the confusion was good. It made it exciting and kind of fun.
So let's get into the details here. Boss Dumb Drum has 5 phases. He's a giant steel drum with a skull and crossbones on it with big red eyes. We've seen drums like this previously in stages like Oil Drum Alley and Blackout Basement, where there were like flames coming up and down from the drums. Mm-hmm. We've also seen enemies come out of drums like slippas. But this is the first giant drum we've seen. And it appears to have some kind of sentience because it's out to get us. Mm-hmm. First, it drops 2 critters on you. Then it drops 2 slippas. Then it drops 2 claptraps, followed by 2 clumps, and finally 2 armies. So it's an interesting boss. Like you said, Aaron, you don't directly attack him. He just kind of slams himself down into the ground, gradually committing suicide until he finally explodes at the end of the fight.
Because he's now empty inside. Because there aren't any enemies inside of him anymore. So
there's really an existential level to this boss.
Yeah, many layers to Dumb Drum.
Well, the music for this boss, we've heard this music track 4 times before. The Bad Boss Boogie, still a pretty good track. Aaron, you and I have discussed it, but Jared, did you have any thoughts on this track?
Honestly, I don't really remember it too.
All right. Well, we can cut that out then. We can go ahead and cut that part out.
No, I mean, I think that speaks to it. It probably, it's a good track isn't necessarily one that you notice,
Yeah, it kind of fades into the background.
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
Experience it, you live it for a moment, and it's part of what's going on. But you're doing other things. It's there to supplement the experience, not to be the focus. So I'd say that's true. That's a plus.
Yeah, you don't want it to be too distracting. That's a good point.
Well, and you were talking about the confusing nature of the boss fight too. How it's pretty different from anything else that you've seen, so far. And in the midst of that confusion, it's easy to not pay attention to anything else while you're trying to figure stuff out.
That's true. Sure. Like, your attention is focused on the fight itself. A good point.
Giant steel barrel that's trying to smush you.
That has like this crazy death drive, just trying to kill you and itself.
And apparently, it's just full of enemies.
Yeah, it wouldn't seem like, based on the laws of physics, that all those enemies should be able to fit inside that space. But maybe it's
the
like
laws
the
of
TARDIS.
physics do not apply on Congo Island.
All right, let's get into rankings. As a boss in this game, I would personally say this one is maybe a little better than some of the previous ones, except maybe Queen Bee. Except for that one, I would say this is probably my favorite boss so far. I think it's generally pretty creative. It's surprising. However, it's not too challenging once you kind of figure out what's going on. It's pretty simple. I'd say the only tricky part is at the end when you really need to have DK to defeat the armies. So I don't know, as kind of generally ranking this as a boss, I would give it maybe 3 out of 5, maybe 3.5 out of 5. What do you think, Aaron?
I'd put it pretty high too, but the competition is not stiff. We've
true.
had two, we haven't had that many bosses. We've had 2 naughties, which would both be at the bottom of any of my lists. We've had Master Necky, which I'd probably put a little bit above this, just because I'd probably put it third, really, because I think that Master Necky and Queen Bee were both more intimidating fights, I suppose. Because this one, you got your regular enemies that you have to defeat, but it's really just a waiting game. The guy just kills himself. He just commits suicide in front of you.
Yep.
So I don't know. Like it's good. If I was gonna give it a star rate, I'd probably put it a solid 2.5, right in the middle of the road.
Right on. Jared, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of platforming challenge of like dealing with all the enemies that get spit out is interesting, while also like dodging the attacks from the boss itself. But like you were saying, Aaron, like the bosses in this game are just not very interesting overall, and especially compared to how well the actual levels are designed. There's not a lot of payoff when you get to the end of a world. I'd say pretty much across the board, for me at least. So yeah, I mean, I'd agree that this is probably one of the better ones in the game, but none of them are very good.
It's not a very high bar, is it?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I did some reading on this game, and like apparently like among other game designers at Nintendo just considered this game to be pretty subpar. I can't remember where I read it, but like one of the game designers at Nintendo was like, "Oh, so you guys just don't care about good gameplay, huh?" And so like it's like this game is fun, but I see what they mean, because like I've had some weird hitboxes, and some moments when I should have died or I should have lived, like clearly, and I just felt like the game wasn't so like.
Yeah,
this game is a good game and I really like it, but I see how it's not like it's not like it's not a tight game,
Well, I don't know if I would agree with that necessarily, but you're certainly right that there were people at NCL, most notably Shigeru Miyamoto, who were said to have been critical of this game. He denies it now, but everyone there are and have been rumors that he'd never liked Donkey Kong Country and kind of resented it because he was then asked to make a game more like Donkey Kong Country, and he was already under a lot of pressure to make a sequel to Super Mario World at the time. All right. Final thoughts on Boss Dumb Drum. I personally think that he is rebelling against his capitalist programming, and that's why the death drive is so strong with him. He wants to destroy himself because it's like he's like HAL 9000. He has an internal conflict between like his desire to destroy the Kongs and his desire to perpetuate the system of capitalism that he's been programmed to uphold.
Or
Jared?
maybe he's...
Oh, Aaron, go ahead.
Maybe he's just an environmentalist, and he's like, no, I am a monster.
Jared, we'll give you the final word on Boss Dumb Drum.
Well, I actually wondered if you can beat this boss if you're just Diddy. I don't know if you can.
That's a good question. I think you can, but the armies are a lot harder to defeat. You jump on them once to stun them, and then a second time to knock them out.
Okay.
And the clumps you can of course roll through, although the jump attack is ineffectual with Diddy.
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay. Yeah, I mean, kind of like I said before, it's a good boss for this game. The bosses in this game suck.
Well, that's a good segue, or seg, depending on how you want to pronounce it, to the next segment that I would like to take us to, which is another edition of Supplementary Materials.
Woohoo!
So you gentlemen may or may not know that there is a Game Boy Advance version of this game made by Rare as well. Some of the same people worked on it. And in this GBA version, there are a lot of differences. Boss Dumb Drum is pretty different for one thing. He requires TNT barrels to defeat in the Game Boy Advance version. After every cycle, he drops a TNT barrel, and so then you have to nail him with it to actually deal damage.
I can see how that would improve things. Just the idea that you're actually like damaging him is a big change.
Yeah. It adds another layer to it. There's another layer of strategy, and also I don't know, it makes it more straightforward, more of a normal boss fight.
And also it probably would give you a little bit more of a sense of satisfaction, you know?
Right, because you're actually doing something here.
Instead of just
surviving.
Instead of just waiting for him to kill himself.
Yeah.
All right. Every boss fight in the Game Boy Advance version ends with Cranky Kong appearing on screen and having a little dialogue for you. So after you defeat Boss Dumb Drum, this is what Cranky Kong says. Oh dear, call that tin can a boss? Surely K. Rool can come up with better than that. Maybe a bucket or perhaps a really nasty fridge.
Why does he have an accent like that?
That's a good question, Aaron.
I assume that you were doing that because he has it in the game as well. Why would you put that accent on if he doesn't have it in the game as well?
Well, it's written, obviously, but that text that I just read for you, that text that I just read, even reading it, you can tell that it's meant to be spoken with a British accent.
Of course, it's very posh.
I don't know if it's posh, but it's definitely British. All the guys who worked on this game and who wrote the dialogue for it all have these really weird, like Northern England accents. Like if you listen to Steve Mails or, any of these guys talk for any length of time, they're just fun to listen to. They all have pretty weird kind of regional British accents.
So does that imply that the Kongs are colonists then?
Because they're from the British Empire.
Yeah, exactly. They're imperialists.
They were sent here by Queen Victoria.
Yeah. They subjugated the local population of Kremlings.
It's like Australia.
It's worse than Australia. It's
maybe it's a penal colony, and the Kongs are criminals who have been imprisoned here.
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I see them as rulers. Like they've come in and they've, planted their flag, and, they're the ruling class. Hence why they're, outnumbered so greatly on their own island. They came in, they named it Kong Island, and they've just been subjugating the poor Kremlings ever since. It used to be Kremling Island.
Oh, do you have a flag? Well, we have a flag.
No flag, can't have one.
Here's a little interesting tidbit. If you ever listen to Steve Mails pronounce the title of this game, he pronounces it Donkey Kong Country. Yep, that's a fact.
Donkey Kong Country.
All right,
Country.
I sent you gentlemen before we started this episode a map of this world, and it is two maps actually. One of the SNES version of Kremcroc Industries, and once of the Game Boy Advance version of this game. They redid all the map backgrounds. What do you fellas think of these two maps? Some of the differences here. Which one do you like better? I
personally, I mean, I like them both for sure. I think that I like the Game Boy Advance one better because it looks like a lot more everything. Like it looks like a lot more of a factory. Like, and everything's more. It makes more sense.
Yeah, it's more obviously a factory. I mean, in the SNES version, it's like there's a few like industrial areas, and then the rest is kind of a wasteland. You know,
exactly.
Whereas the Game Boy Advance one is like one big complex.
Yeah, and also like in the Game Boy Advance one, the poison pond looks like the poison pond. You know, it's all green and gross and everything. But in the SNES version, the pond looks downright, pleasant pond.
You want to go for a relaxing swim?
You do. I'd take a dip.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't sure which one was which, but and I was assuming that the one that I liked better was the SNES one, but it's actually the Game Boy Advance one.
Oh, interesting.
It looks so much cleaner. Like everything's like. I have a great affinity for the SNES one because it's an old school style map, like one of those very pixelated sort of maps, and it's great and I love it. But the one on the Game Boy Advance is much cleaner and it's well illustrated and everything looks. You can tell what everything is really.
It has some logic to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit. I mean, some of the level nodes are a little odd. One of the level nodes is that staircase on the right side. Like you're going up the staircase and then all of a sudden you're in like a blackout basement or no, you're in the minecart level, minecart carnage. So apparently you're
you slip in between one of the stairs and end up in a minecart level.
Exactly.
Well, if you take it that, you went in the poison pond and swam underneath everything.
Okay.
Then, the minecarts are taking you up. Because the minecart
seems like a stretch.
Could be.
I don't know. It all takes place inside of the mountain. It's a minecart. What do you want from me?
I may be confused. That may actually be elevator antics or possibly
which would also
even
make sense.
truck. They may have even rearranged the order of the levels on this world. I think they do that a few times in the Game Boy Advance version.
It don't matter.
It don't matter. None of this matters. All right. A couple other differences I wanted to mention before we wrap up here. There are, like I said, Cranky has dialogue. There's a lot more dialogue in this version, and you can imagine it all in strange regional British accents. There's also mini games. Funky Kong has you do Funky's Fishing, and Candy has you do a dance mini game at her dance studio. They're about as good as you probably expect them to be. There are also additional collectibles in the game. That's right. They threw in more collectibles. There's cameras that you have to collect. And I think every stage has one, and then doing mini games will earn you more as well.
Because everybody's clamoring for more collectibles in my 2D side scroller.
What's the theme of the cameras? Like, is there an in-game explanation for why you're collecting cameras?
I think there's like, a tossed away line where it's like, find all these missing cameras, DK, or I lost my cameras or something like that.
So you're empowering the surveillance state. That's what it's going
on. Yeah, it's the Panopticon.
Now, Pokemon Snap had just come out, and they were setting up for Donkey Kong Snap. They were trying to lay the seeds for the spinoff.
I would definitely play Donkey Kong Snap.
Would you?
I love Pokemon Snap, man. That game's tight.
Me too. It needs a sequel.
And the sequel will be Donkey Kong Snap.
Oh, God, the spiritual successor.
All right. There are, some other minor differences that we might mention at a later date. But for now, let us wrap up with this edition of Supplementary Materials. All right, fellas. This has been a good episode. I've enjoyed myself. Have you guys enjoyed yourselves?
As have I. This has been a lot of fun.
Not. Oh, I mean, yeah, it's been great.
Jared.
We invite this guy on our program, and all he does is insult us.
Never again, Jason. You hear that? Try to make you happy one time.
No, it's been fun. I've had a blast as usual.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, but next time on this episode, you can look forward to Chimp Caverns. Chimp Caverns is a brand new world. It is the 6th world and the final full world of this game. However, it is also probably the most difficult world yet. So we've come so far, but the hardest is still yet to come.
We are going to hate it. It's going to be great.
All right, folks, you can look forward to the start of Chimp Caverns next time on One Stage at a Time. But for now, we'll be wrapping it up. Please follow us on the internet, where we have a presence on onestageatatime.com, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Let us know what you think about the show. And if you're playing Donkey Kong Country, what are your thoughts on Boss Dumb Drum? Aaron, what do you want to say to our listeners before we finish up today?
Thank you for listening, everybody. I hope you've been having a nice quarantine and playing some good video games. Please wash your hands and stay away from other human beings. They're toxic. And I want to thank Jared for being here. Thank you for being here, Jared.
My pleasure. It's been a great time.
Andy, should we tell the listeners what's coming on the next episode of One Stage at a Time?
I think we should, Aaron. Why don't you do the honors?
Okay, well, we decided that since we have a little bit of extra time on our hands right now, that One Stage at a Time could benefit from a second game.
A bit of a side mission, if you will.
If you will, a side mission where we are going to be playing the classic, the ultimate Sonic the Hedgehog. Everybody's been clamoring for it. But we're finally going to do it. How about that? Andy, are you excited to play Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, it's one of the quintessential games of my childhood. Who could forget it? We all have played it before. Truly a real trailblazing game.
That's right. So we're going to be playing Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis, right?
Wait, no. I'm checking my notes here, Aaron. It's actually Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Game Gear.
What? Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Game Gear?
Yeah, that's what it says right here.
But what? Okay. It's not... Okay, I guess we're playing Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Game Gear.
8-bit Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. This is going to be great.
Well, folks, tune in next time where you find out if we're pulling your leg or not. And we will explain our reasoning for selecting this game.
Until then, thank you for listening, everybody. Jared, do you remember our sign off?
I do. Save and continue.